What is the price of a legacy? For billionaire tech mogul Julian Croft, it was everything. He had the perfect life, the perfect empire, and the perfect wife Anya, who was about to give him the one thing he craved most, a son. But when the gender reveal party exploded in a cloud of pink, his perfect world shattered. In a single brutal moment, he cast Anya aside, believing a daughter was a stain on his legacy. He thought he could erase her with a check and a court order, but he forgot about one small detail from their past. A worthless piece of paper he'd given her in a garage years ago. A piece of paper that was about to become his worst nightmare in a court of law. The air in the Croft estate buzzed with an electric champagne-fueled anticipation that felt almost suffocating to Anya. From her vantage point on the sweeping marble balcony of their Palisades mansion, she watched the sun bleed orange and violet into the Pacific Ocean. It was a perfect California sunset, a postcard of wealth and tranquility that felt like a beautiful lie. Down below, on the manicured lawn that rolled flawlessly to the cliff's edge, hundreds of guests mingled. They were a curated collection of Silicon Beach entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, Hollywood producers, and the kind of old money families whose surnames adorned museum wings. They were Julian's people, not hers. Anya smoothed down the front of her bespoke silk maternity gown, a soft, dove-gray creation that had cost more than the car she used to drive. The baby, their long-awaited child, fluttered inside her, a secret conversation only she was privy to. For 9 years, she had played the part of Mrs. Julian Croft, a role she had once embraced with love and now performed with practiced precision. She had been the perfect accessory to his meteoric rise, beautiful, poised, intelligent enough to hold a conversation, but demure enough not to overshadow him. She'd organized his life, managed his homes, hosted his galas, and soothed his ego, all while shelving her own ambitions in architectural history. She had believed it was a partnership. Lately, she felt more like a high-level employee in the corporation of Julian's life. "There you are." Anya didn't startle. Julian's voice, even at its softest, always carried a tone of command. He stepped onto the balcony, a flute of champagne in one hand, his other resting possessively on the small of her back. He was devastatingly handsome, with sharp, intelligent eyes and a smile that could disarm world leaders and secure billion-dollar funding rounds. Tonight, he was incandescent with excitement, a crackling energy radiating from him. "You're hiding up here," he murmured, his lips brushing her temple. It was a gesture for the distant, observing eyes below. Nervous, a little overwhelmed, she admitted, her voice a soft counterpoint to his booming confidence. "It's a lot, Julian. It's a celebration, Anya. The biggest one yet," he said, his gaze sweeping over the crowd with proprietary satisfaction. "This isn't just about a baby. This is about the future. The Croft legacy." The word hung in the air between them, legacy. It was his obsession, the driving force behind his relentless ambition. Julian hadn't just built a company. He had forged an empire. Ethelgard AI, his brainchild, was at the forefront of machine learning and predictive analytics. Its algorithms were embedded in everything from global logistics to financial markets. He saw himself not as a CEO, but as a modern-day Carnegie or Rockefeller, a titan whose name would echo for generations. And for that, he needed an heir, a son. He had never said it explicitly, not in so many crude words, but the expectation was a constant unspoken pressure. Throughout her pregnancy, he had spoken only in male pronouns. He'd already commissioned blueprints for a renovation of the East Wing into a boys' paradise, complete with a rock-climbing wall and a miniature basketball court. He'd talk for hours about teaching him to sail, to read stock tickers, to dismantle and rebuild an engine. It was a fully formed fantasy, and Anya and the child she carried were the final essential props. "Everything is ready," he said, his hand moving from her back to rest on her swollen belly. His touch was not tender. It felt like he was claiming territory. "The cannon is loaded. The pyrotechnician is on standby. It's going to be spectacular." He'd insisted on a custom-built air cannon that would shoot colored smoke and biodegradable confetti hundreds of feet into the air. "Go big or go home," he'd declared, dismissing her suggestion of a simple cake cutting as suburban and depressing. A shadow fell over them. Beatrice Croft, Julian's mother, glided onto the balcony, her spine ramrod straight, her silver hair styled into a formidable helmet. She was a woman carved from ice, her smile a thin, sharp weapon. She looked Anya up and down, her eyes lingering on the bump. "Anya, dear Beatrice," said her voice dripping with condescension. "You look full. I do hope you're not overexerting yourself. We need you to deliver a healthy baby." She corrected herself with a flick of her wrist. "A healthy boy." Anya forced a smile. "We'll be happy with a healthy baby, Beatrice." Beatrice let out a dry little laugh. "Oh, of course, dear. We tell ourselves that. But a legacy needs a successor. Aethelgard needs a Croft to pass the torch to. A daughter would be lovely, I'm sure. But a son is a foundation." She turned her laser-like focus to Julian. "Your father, God rest his soul, would be so proud today, Julian. He always knew you would build something monumental. Now you will finally secure it." Julian swelled with pride, his ego stroked to perfection. "I know, Mother. Tonight is for him, too." The casual dismissal of a potential daughter, their own flesh and blood, sent a chill through Anya's heart. She looked between the two of them, the powerful, arrogant son and his cold, calculating mother, and felt an icy wave of loneliness that the California heat could not touch. She was a vessel, a beautiful, well-cared-for incubator tasked with a single, vital function. "It's time," Julian announced, his voice booming as he led them back into the throng and towards the lawn. A stage had been erected with a large, polished brass cannon aimed at the twilight sky. A drum roll began low and theatrical. Julian took the microphone, his smile blinding. "Friends, family, partners," he began, his voice amplified across the estate. "Thank you for being here. For 9 years, my incredible wife Anya and I have been on an amazing journey. We've built a life, and I've built a company." He paused for applause, which came on cue. "But none of it means anything without the future. Without legacy." The crowd cheered. Anya stood beside him, a fixed smile plastered on her face. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. She wanted a girl. The thought was a rebellion, a secret treason she had harbored for months. A daughter felt like an ally, a kindred spirit, in this male-dominated world Julian had constructed. A daughter would be hers in a way a son could never be. A son would be a miniature Julian, molded and shaped by him and Beatrice from the moment of his birth. And now, Julian roared the moment we've all been waiting for, the future of the Croft name. The next CEO of Aethelgard AI. He pulled a golden lanyard, and with a deafening whoosh, the cannon fired. For a split second, the world held its breath. Anya's eyes were fixed on the sky, her hands clasped over her baby. She saw it before she could fully process it. A bloom of color against the darkening sky. Not the bold electric blue everyone expected. It was pink, a vibrant, unapologetic shimmering cloud of pink smoke billowed upwards, followed by a glittering shower of pink confetti that rained down on the stunned crowd. Silence. The drum roll faltered. The cheering died in 100 throats. Anya felt a dizzying, triumphant surge of joy, so pure and fierce it stole her breath. A girl. Her daughter. Then she made the mistake of looking at Julian. His face, which had been alight with triumphant expectation, had collapsed. The smile was gone, replaced by a mask of slack-jawed disbelief. His eyes fixed on the pink cloud turned from shock to a cold, hard fury. The color drained from his face, leaving behind a waxy pale sheen. It was not disappointment, it was disgust. He dropped the lanyard as if it were a venomous snake. The microphone was still live. In the dead silence, his voice, a low, guttural whisper, was picked up and amplified across the entire lawn. No. It was a single word, but it was filled with a universe of rejection. He turned to Anya. The crowd, the world, everything melted away, except for the look in his eyes. The performative love, the possessive pride, it was all gone. What remained was a look of pure, unadulterated contempt. He looked at her as if she had not just failed him, but had betrayed him on a cellular level, as if her body had willfully conspired against his destiny. He didn't say another word. He turned his back on her, on the pink confetti still settling on his $1,000 suit, and strode through the paralyzed crowd. The sea of guests parted for him as he walked, his face a thunderous mask. Anya stood alone on the stage, the pink glitter clinging to her hair and skin like a cruel joke. The silence of the crowd was a physical blow, a wall of judgment and pity. She saw Beatrice, her mother-in-law, staring at her with undisguised venom, before turning to follow her son. The joy that had soared in Anya's chest moments before curdled into a cold, heavy stone of dread in her stomach. The party was over, and she had a horrifying feeling that her life as she knew it was over too. The ride home was a tomb of silence. The custom-built Rolls-Royce, usually a symbol of their shared success, felt like a hermetically sealed cage. Julian stared out his window, his profile etched against the glittering lights of Los Angeles, a rigid statue of fury. Anya sat opposite him, her hands wrapped around her stomach, the pink confetti a mocking reminder of her sin. The driver, separated by a glass partition, was mercifully oblivious to the Arctic tension in the cabin. Anya's mind raced. She tried to formulate sentences, apologies, explanations. But for what? For having a daughter, the absurdity of it was staggering. Yet the look on his face had been unmistakable. This was not a minor disappointment he would get over. This was a fundamental breach of their unspoken contract. When the car finally swept through the gates of their estate and purred to a stop under the grand portico, Julian moved before the driver could even open his door. He got out, not waiting for her, and stormed into the house. Anya took a deep breath, gathered the remnants of her composure, and followed him. She found him in their cavernous living room, a space designed to look like a modern art gallery, all white walls, stark furniture, and dramatic oversized canvases. He was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, his back to her, pouring a large measure of scotch from the crystal decanter on the bar. "Julian," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "can we please talk about this?" He tossed back half the drink in one swallow, the ice clinking violently against the glass. He turned slowly, and the cold fury in his eyes had now been honed to a sharp, cruel point. "Talk about what, Anya?" he asked, his voice deceptively calm. "Talk about the public humiliation, about how you made me a laughingstock in front of every person who matters in my life. The next CEO of Ethelgard I said. And what did you give me? A liability. The word struck her like a slap. A liability. She is our child, Julian. Our daughter. She is not my legacy, he roared, slamming the glass down on the marble bar. The sound cracked through the room. She is a dead end. A Croft daughter will marry some worthless leech. Take his name and dilute everything I've ever built. A son carries the torch. A son is the future. You knew what I wanted. You knew what was required. The injustice of it all ignited a spark of anger in her. Was I under contract to produce a specific gender for you? This is biology. Julian, not a business transaction. I am your wife, not your factory, and what a poor investment you've turned out to be. He sneered, the cruelty in his voice now laid bare. I gave you everything, Anya. This house, the clothes, the status. I took you from a 2-bedroom apartment in the valley and put you at the center of the world. And in return, I asked for one thing that matters. And you couldn't even do that. Tears welled in her eyes, hot and bitter. It was the ultimate transactional view of their life together. Everything he had ever given her was not a gift of love, but a payment for a service she had now failed to render. So that's it, she whispered, her voice breaking. 9 years of marriage, our child. It all means nothing because she's a girl. It means you've failed, he said coldly. The partnership is dissolved. He walked over to the intercom on the wall, his movements precise and chillingly detached. He pressed the button for the head of his security detail. Miguel, if I need you to come to the main living room, please, and have one of the maids pack a bag for Mrs. Croft. Just the essentials. Anya's blood ran cold. What are you doing? I'm ending this, he said, not even looking at her. He was looking past her at a future she was no longer a part of. I want a divorce, Anya. I'll have my lawyer Marcus Thorne draw up the papers. He'll be in touch with whomever you decide to retain. I will be generous, of course. I'm not a monster. The words were a grotesque parody of reason. I'll provide for the child naturally. A trust fund, the best schools, but you and I are finished. The finality in his tone was absolute. There was no negotiation, no room for appeal. He was firing her from her own life. Just then, Miguel, a burly man who had been Julian's head of security for years, entered the room, his face an impassive mask. He looked from Julian to Anya, a flicker of discomfort in his eyes. You called Mr. Croft? Yes, Miguel, Julian said, his voice flat and authoritative. Please escort Mrs. Croft from the premises. She will be staying elsewhere from now on. Her bag will be down in a moment. Anya stared at him, aghast. You're throwing me out. Now in the middle of the night. The marriage is over, he said, as if explaining a simple fact. There is no reason for you to remain in my house. My house, not our house. The distinction was a deliberate final twist of the knife. Julian, please, she begged, the last of her pride crumbling. I'm pregnant. Where am I supposed to go? You're a resourceful woman, he said, with a dismissive wave of his hand. You'll figure it out. Your friend Chloe, perhaps. You always seemed happier in her shabby little world anyway. The cruelty was breathtaking. He was not just ending their marriage. He was trying to annihilate her, to strip her of all dignity. Miguel looked down at the floor, clearly ashamed to be a party to this. A young maid appeared at the doorway, holding a single designer suitcase, her eyes wide with fear and pity. The bag is ready, sir, she stammered. Excellent, Julian said. He walked back to the bar, turning his back on her completely, a clear dismissal. The audience was over. Numb with shock and a grief so profound it felt like a physical death, Anya allowed Miguel to gently guide her by the elbow towards the door. She didn't look back. If she looked back, she knew she would shatter into a million pieces. As she stepped out into the cold night air, the scent of the ocean and the distant dying embers of the party assaulted her senses. She had entered this house 9 years ago as a bride full of love and hope. She was leaving it as a discarded object, a failed investment, with nothing but a suitcase and the unborn daughter he despised. She directed the Uber, a stark, humiliating come-down from the Rolls-Royce to a small, pre-war apartment building in West Hollywood. Chloe, her best friend from college, opened the door in her pajamas, her face a mixture of confusion and concern. The moment Chloe saw Anya's tear-streaked face and the suitcase standing forlornly beside her, she understood. She pulled Anya into a fierce hug, and inside the warmth of her friend's embrace, in the safety of a tiny apartment filled with books and mismatched furniture and genuine affection, Anya finally broke. The sobs came in great heaving waves for her lost love, her shattered marriage, and for the tiny, innocent girl inside her who had been judged and rejected before she had even taken her first breath. "He threw me out," Anya choked out between sobs, collapsing onto Chloe's worn-out sofa. "Because we're having a girl." Chloe's face hardened with a protective fury. "That man is a monster, a narcissistic, misogynistic monster." She knelt in front of Anya, taking her hands. "You are not to blame for any of this. Do you hear me? You and this baby are the best things to ever happen to him, and he was too stupid and too arrogant to see it. You will be okay. We will figure this out." For the next few days, Anya existed in a fog of grief. She barely ate, sleeping in fits and starts on Chloe's couch. The world Julian had built for her had vanished, and she felt untethered, worthless. His words echoed in her head, "Failed investment liability, my house." He had defined her for so long that she no longer knew who she was without him. One afternoon, while Chloe was at work, Anya was staring blankly at the wall when a memory surfaced. It was a faint, dusty recollection from a lifetime ago. Back when they were young, before the billions, before Ethelgard AI was even a company. It was just Julian, a brilliant obsessive coder, working out of the garage of their first rented house. She had been his sounding board, his champion, the one who believed in him when no one else did. She'd brought him coffee, paid their bills with her meager salary as an architectural assistant, and listened for hours as he mapped out algorithms on a giant whiteboard. She remembered a specific day. He'd just finalized the incorporation paperwork. He was euphoric, dancing around the oil-stained garage. He'd grabbed a piece of fancy heavyweight paper, part of a stationery set she'd bought him, and had scrawled something on it with a fountain pen. "For my partner in crime," he'd said, laughing, handing it to her with a dramatic bow. "The official first-ever share of Ethelgard AI. It's worthless now, but one day this piece of paper will be our kingdom." She had laughed with him, framing the silly document in a cheap frame from a thrift store and tucking it away with other mementos from their early days. It was a romantic gesture, a symbol of their shared dream. It was long forgotten, buried under 9 years of unimaginable wealth and success. All their current holdings were digital, managed by teams of lawyers and wealth managers. That piece of paper was just a ghost. Anya sat bolt upright on the couch. A box. She had a box of those old things. When they had moved into the Palisades mansion, Julian had wanted to throw out all their old junk, She had refused quietly, taking a few boxes of sentimental items to a small climate-controlled storage unit she paid for in cash every year. It was her one small secret, her connection to a past, to a version of herself she had almost forgotten. A tiny, fragile seed of an idea began to sprout in the barren ground of her despair. It was probably nothing, a meaningless sentimental trinket, a joke between two young lovers. But what if it wasn't? What if the kingdom he had promised her on that worthless piece of paper was real? For the first time in days, a flicker of something other than pain sparked within her. It wasn't hope, not yet. It was something sharper, more dangerous. It was resolve. She stood up, her movements now filled with purpose. She needed to get to that storage unit. The storage facility in Van Nuys was a world away from the manicured perfection of the Palisades. It was a grid of anonymous roll-up metal doors under the relentless glare of the sun, the air thick with the smell of hot asphalt and dust. Anya hadn't been there in years. The monthly fee was an automatic debit, a forgotten line item in a budget she no longer managed. As she punched in the code, the heavy gate scraping open, it felt like unlocking a door to a former life. Her unit was small, 5'10", stacked neatly with a dozen or so cardboard boxes labeled in her own handwriting: college textbooks, kitchen, first apt photos, sentimental. Her heart beat a little faster. This was her time capsule, the tangible proof of a life before Julian Croft, CEO. A life where she was just Anya Petrova, a woman with her own dreams. She moved boxes aside, the taste of dust on her tongue. It was in the last box she checked, the one labeled sentimental. Beneath a stack of old concert ticket stubs, dried flowers, and faded love letters from the early passionate days of their relationship, she found it. It was a cheap, black lacquered frame, the kind you buy for $10 at a craft store. Inside, against a backing of yellowed matboard, was the document. It wasn't just a scribble, as she had half remembered. It was a formal-looking certificate, printed on thick, cream-colored vellum paper. At the top, in an elegant, archaic font, were the words Ethelgard AII Inc., Official Founding Share Certificate. Her breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she worked the flimsy metal tabs on the back of the frame and carefully slid the document out. It felt heavy, substantial in her hands. The text was printed, but the key details were filled in with Julian's familiar, arrogant scrawl using the expensive fountain pen she'd given him for his birthday. This certifies that Anya Petrova is the registered owner of 50-50 shares of the capital stock of Ethelgard AI Inc., representing 50% of the total authorized founding shares. It was dated, signed by Julian Croft as president, and on the second line by her Anya Petrova as secretary, a formality he'd insisted on at the time, laughing that every great man needed a good secretary. Below their signatures was the embossed golden seal of the newly formed corporation. 50%. The words swam before her eyes. It couldn't be real. It was a joke, a prop in the theater of their early love story. Their current stock was traded on the NASDAQ. Their holdings were a complex web of trusts and digital portfolios. This piece of paper had to be legally meaningless, superseded by a decade of corporate evolution. It had to be. But as she stared at it, a different memory surfaced. A conversation with Julian's first corporate lawyer, a weary, old-school attorney named Samuel, who had helped with the initial incorporation before Julian had moved on to a flashier, more aggressive firm. "You make sure you hold on to that young lady," Samuel had told her over coffee one day, nodding toward the framed certificate on their mantelpiece. "Julian's a rocket ship. but rockets can blow up. In the eyes of the state of California, that piece of paper makes you as much the owner as he is. It was never cancelled, never superseded. It's the cornerstone. She had dismissed it as avuncular advice. Julian had later called Samuel a dinosaur and fired him. They had never spoken of the certificate again. It had been packed away and forgotten by everyone, especially by Julian, a man who only ever looked forward, who saw the past as nothing more than a launch pad he had already left behind. Anya sank down onto a dusty box, the certificate held tight in her hands. This wasn't a memory, it was an anchor, a weapon. The cold stone of dread in her gut began to transform, heating into something white-hot and powerful. He had called her a liability, a failed investment. He had thrown her out of his house. He was going to give her a generous pittance to disappear, to raise the daughter he didn't want in quiet obscurity. All that time, she had been holding the deed to half his kingdom. The next day, Anya walked into the Beverly Hills offices of Reed and Associates. She had found Evelyn Reed through a discreet recommendation from a friend of Chloe's in the legal field. Reed was known as a shark, a brilliant and notoriously tough family law attorney who specialized in complex, high-net-worth divorces. Evelyn Reed was a formidable woman in her late 50s with sharp, intelligent eyes and an impeccably tailored suit that radiated power. She listened patiently, her face unreadable, as Anya recounted the story, the party, the humiliation, Julian's cruel dismissal. It was, she was sure, a story Evelyn had heard in various forms 100 times before. The tale of the rich, powerful man, discarding the wife, who was no longer useful. Mr. Croft's attorney, Marcus Thorne, has already been in contact, Evelyn said, her voice crisp and businesslike. He's made it clear they are prepared to offer a one-time settlement of $10 million plus a monthly child support stipend of $50,000. It's contingent on you signing a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. $10 million. A year ago, the sum would have seemed astronomical. Now, knowing what Ethelgard AI was worth north of $50 billion, it was an insult. A tip. It was the cost of making his problem go away. He wants to erase me, Anya said, her voice quiet but firm. That is the standard playbook? Yes, Evelyn agreed, steepling her fingers. They will paint you as a gold digger, a woman who contributed nothing to his success, who is entitled to nothing more than a comfortable exit. They will use your prenuptial agreement as their primary weapon. Ah, the prenup. Another document from a lifetime ago, signed in a flurry of wedding planning. It had been ironclad, she knew. It stated that in the event of a divorce, all assets related to Ethelgard AI, which was listed as Julian's separate property, would remain his. She would be entitled to half the value of their shared homes and a severance based on the length of the marriage. The $10 million offer was technically more than the prenup stipulated. It was his version of generosity. The prenup is very specific about the company, Anya said, her heart beginning to pound. This was the moment. Extremely, Evelyn confirmed. Marcus Thorne seems to believe it's an open and shut case. Anya took a deep breath. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a protective plastic sleeve. She slid it across the vast, polished mahogany desk. I believe the prenup may have overlooked an asset, she said. Evelyn Reed picked up the sleeve, her expression one of polite, professional curiosity. She slid the certificate out, her eyes scanning the top. The curiosity flickered into interest. She read the main body of text, her eyebrows raising slightly. She then reread it, her lips pursed. She looked at the signatures. She looked at the date. She took a pair of reading glasses from her desk and examined the embossed seal. For a full minute, the only sound in the office was the faint hum of the air conditioning. Evelyn Reed, the unflappable shark, was silent. She looked up from the document, and for the first time, Anya saw a crack in her professional veneer. It was a look of profound, electrifying shock, and then slowly, a smile spread across her face. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just caught the scent of blood in the water. "Oh my God," Evelyn whispered almost to herself. She looked at Anya, her eyes gleaming with a newfound, ferocious respect. "Mrs. Croft? Anya, do you have any idea what this is?" "I think so," Anya said, her voice gaining strength. "I think it's the cornerstone." "Cornerstone? My dear, this isn't the cornerstone. This is the entire goddamn foundation," Evelyn said, a thrill in her voice. "This document predates the prenup. It establishes your ownership stake not as an asset acquired during the marriage, but as a foundational element of the company's very existence. You weren't the wife of the founder. According to this, you were a founder." She leaned back in her chair, a slow, dangerous grin spreading across her face. Marcus Thorne's $10 million offer isn't just an insult. It's a declaration of ignorance. They have no idea this exists. None, Anya confirmed. He threw it in a box. I don't think he's thought about it in a decade. Evelyn Reed began to laugh. It was a low, rich, triumphant sound. "Oh, this is beautiful. This is the most beautiful thing I've seen in my entire career. A comprehensive NDA he wants." She picked up the certificate again, holding it as if it were a holy relic. Julian Croft is about to find out what the price of a legacy really is, and we are going to enjoy every single moment of teaching him that lesson. In that moment, sitting across from the most feared divorce attorney in Los Angeles, Anya felt the last vestiges of the timid, broken wife fall away. Julian had wanted to erase her, but he had forgotten that he was the one who had first written her into the story. He'd signed her name right at the beginning, and a signature she was coming to realize could be a very powerful thing. From the 50th floor conference room of his downtown LA, law firm Marcus Thorne looked out at the city spread below like a circuit board. He prided himself on this view, on this altitude. It was a physical manifestation of his place in the legal food chain above it all. Across the expansive glass table, Julian Croft swirled the amber liquid in his glass, the picture of impatient power. "So she rejected it?" Julian asked, his tone laced with disbelief and irritation. "She had the audacity to reject $10 million and the $50,000 a month in child support." "Yes," Marcus confirmed, tapping a gold pen on his legal pad. Evelyn Reed sent a simple one-sentence reply. "The offer is not commensurate with our client's contributions." Julian let out a short, harsh laugh. "Contributions? What contributions? Hosting dinner parties? Picking out furniture? The prenup is clear, Marcus. The company is mine. The intellectual property is mine. She was my wife, not my business partner. I've explained that to Ms. Reed," Marcus said smoothly. "She's a bulldog, but the law is the law. The prenup is unassailable. We drafted it ourselves. She's posturing, Julian. It's the classic opening move. She's trying to see if you'll flinch and raise the offer to avoid a messy public fight." "Let it get messy," Julian snarled. "I want to crush her. I want her to walk away with exactly what the prenup stipulates and not a penny more. Teach her a lesson about gratitude. A public fight could be bad for Ethelgard's image," Marcus cautioned. "A billionaire CEO leaving his pregnant wife, the media would have a field day. The generous offer was designed to avoid that very outcome. The image will be fine. Once I control the narrative, Julian shot back. Anya Petrova, the small-town girl who couldn't handle the pressure. A tragic but amicable parting of ways. We'll leak it to the right people. By the time we're done, she'll look like the unstable one. Marcus nodded, admiring his client's ruthlessness. It was what made him so successful. Very well. We'll file the initial divorce petition tomorrow morning. We'll play hardball. I'll start the discovery process, demand full financials from her, which will be hilariously short, I imagine, and bury her in paperwork. She'll buckle. They always do. Good, Julian said, draining his glass. And freeze her cards, all of them. The joint accounts, the Centurion card. Let her get a taste of what life is like without my resources. Let's see how long her resolve lasts when she has to ask her little friend for gas money. Unaware of the machinations across town, Anya was methodically rebuilding her life. With a modest personal loan secured by Evelyn against her future settlement, she rented a small but charming bungalow in Santa Monica. It was a world away from the cold, museum-like mansion filled with light sea air and the scent of jasmine from the garden. She and Chloe spent a weekend painting the nursery a soft, sunny yellow. For the first time in a decade, Anya was making her own choices, creating a space that was truly hers. The first shot from Julian's side came as a text message from her bank. Your credit card has been declined. It was followed by an email informing her that the joint accounts had been frozen pending legal proceedings. It was a petty, controlling move designed to frighten her, to remind her that he held all the power. A week ago, it would have sent her into a tailspin of panic. Now, holding the knowledge she had, it felt like the desperate act of a bully who had no idea how outmatched he truly was. He's trying to starve you out, Evelyn said calmly over the phone when Anya informed her. It's predictable. Don't worry, we will file a motion for temporary support and we will get it. In the meantime, you use the funds I've arranged for you. And you do not, under any circumstances, engage with him directly. The next attack came from Beatrice. She called Anya's cell phone, a number she hadn't used in years. Anya, I am calling you as a friend. Beatrice began, her voice a sickly sweet syrup of faux concern. We were never friends, Beatrice, Anya replied, her voice steady. She was sitting in the nursery, assembling a crib with an Allen key, and the simple physical task grounded her. Beatrice's tone instantly turned to acid. You are making a terrible mistake. You have no idea the kind of man you are provoking. Julian built an empire from nothing. He will destroy you without a second thought. Take the money he offered. It is more than you deserve. Disappear, have your baby, and live your life quietly. It's the best you can hope for. Thank you for your concern. Beatrice, Anya said, her voice cool as ice. But my lawyer seems to think I can hope for quite a bit more. Your lawyer, Beatrice scoffed. Your lawyer is a bottom feeder who will bleed you dry and leave you with nothing. You are a fool, Anya, a naive little fool who is about to learn a very hard lesson. I've already learned my lesson, Beatrice, Anya said, before hanging up the phone. She blocked the number, her hand not even shaking. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, hard anger. They saw her as a fool. Good. Let them. The weeks that followed were a grueling war of attrition. Marcus Thorne's office buried them in discovery requests, demanding years of bank statements, receipts, and diaries. It was a classic intimidation tactic designed to overwhelm and exhaust. But Evelyn's team was more than a match for them. They calmly complied with every request, producing Anya's modest financial history, while simultaneously filing their own far more invasive requests. They demanded every email Julian had ever sent mentioning the company's formation. They subpoenaed the records of the original incorporation. They requested the minutes from the first ever board meeting which had taken place at their kitchen table. Marcus Thorne treated their requests as a nuisance, a fishing expedition. He provided heavily redacted documents claiming everything else was proprietary or protected by attorney-client privilege. They're stonewalling, Evelyn told Anya during one of their strategy meetings. They think we're looking for a needle in a haystack. They have no idea we already have the needle, and we're going to wait for the perfect moment to stitch them up with it. The strategy was simple and brilliant. Do not reveal the certificate. Not yet. Let Julian and Marcus build their entire case on the foundation of the prenup and Anya's supposed lack of contribution. Let them state it on the record in court filings. Let them climb as high as they could on their mountain of arrogance. The fall would be that much greater. The date for the first hearing was set. It was a routine preliminary hearing to discuss temporary support and the timeline for the divorce proceedings. It wasn't the final trial, but it would be the first time Anya and Julian would be in the same room since that fateful night. He will be there to intimidate you, Evelyn warned her. He'll be flanked by lawyers looking powerful and untouchable. He expects you to be a wreck. You will be the opposite. You will be calm. You will be composed. You will be dignified. You will not look at him. You will look at the judge. You are no longer his wife. You are his adversary. On the morning of the hearing, Anya chose her outfit with the care of a general selecting her armor. She didn't wear the expensive designer labels Julian had bought for her. Instead, she wore a simple, elegant navy blue dress that was professional and understated. It showed off her baby bump, not as a vulnerability, but as a simple fact of her life. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek, no-nonsense bun. Her makeup was minimal. She looked, she thought, not like a billionaire's discarded wife, but like a woman who meant business. As she walked toward the courtroom, she felt a tremor of the old fear. But then she placed a hand on her belly, feeling the strong, steady kick of her daughter. This wasn't just for her anymore. This was for the little girl who had been rejected for her gender. She was fighting for her daughter's future, for her right to a legacy that no man could take from her. She pushed open the doors to the courtroom and walked in. The battle was about to begin, and for the first time, she was ready for it. The courtroom was a theater of power. Julian was already there, flanked by his legal team, a formidable wall of bespoke suits. He smirked at Anya as she entered, expecting to see her crumble. Anya held his gaze for a defiant second before turning away, her focus on the judge's bench. She took her seat beside Evelyn Reed, a picture of icy calm. Judge Harriet Morales, a stern-faced woman, entered and got straight to the point. "Mr. Thorne," she began, "your client has frozen my petitioner's assets while arguing against temporary support. Explain." Marcus Thorne rose smoothly. "Your Honor, Mr. Croft made an extraordinarily generous offer that far exceeds their prenup. Mrs. Croft rejected it. Our position is that she is not acting in good faith. The business Ethelgard AI is and has always been his separate property, his creation. The prenup is clear. Her contributions were purely domestic." He built his case with smug certainty. The judge listened, her face a neutral mask. "Ms. Reed, your response?" Evelyn Reed stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Thorne is correct that this case hinges on the ownership of Ethelgard AI. However, his entire argument is based on a foundational error, a faulty premise." She paused. "He has characterized my client's contributions as domestic. We are here to prove that Anya Petrova was not merely the wife of a founder. She was a founder. A ripple of confusion went through Julian's side. Thorne scoffed. Objection. A baseless assertion. I am not talking about current documents, Mr. Thorne. Evelyn cut, in her voice sharp. I am talking about the very first document, the one that gave Ethelgard AI its legal life. A document your client has conveniently forgotten. Evelyn nodded at Anya. This was the moment. With steady hands, Anya slid the vellum certificate from her portfolio. Evelyn presented it to the clerk. Your Honor, we submit Petitioner's Exhibit A, the original founding share certificate for Ethelgard AI Incorporated. The clerk handed it to Judge Morales. As the judge examined it, a tense silence fell. Julian leaned forward, squinting. A wave of horrified recognition washed over his face. He recognized the worthless piece of paper from the garage. He looked like he had seen a ghost. Judge Morales looked up, her expression now one of intense interest. Mr. Thorne, she said quietly, this certificate bearing your client's signature and the corporate seal grants 50% of the founding shares to one Anya Petrova. Can you explain this? Thorne stammered. Your Honor, it must be a novelty item. It has no legal standing. It has the signatures of the corporate officers and the official seal, Mr. Thorne. Evelyn countered smoothly. It was never cancelled, never superseded. It represents a foundational ownership stake that predates the prenup and every dollar of the $50 billion valuation my client's husband believes is his alone. Julian shot to his feet. This is insane. It was a joke. He yelled, his control shattered. Mr. Croft, sit down, the judge ordered, banging her gavel. He sank back into his chair, staring at Anya with pure hatred. But she felt no fear, only empowerment. The power dynamic had been seismically reversed. Thorne was pale and sweating, whispering frantically to Julian. They were in free fall. Evelyn Reed walked back to her table, a picture of serene triumph. Your Honor, she announced, her voice ringing with clarity. Given this new evidence, we are withdrawing our petition for temporary support. Instead, we will be filing a new motion, a motion to immediately freeze 50% of all assets, corporate and personal, of Ethelgard AI and Mr. Julian Croft, pending a full valuation and division of the company my client co-founded. Checkmate. A strangled gasp escaped Julian's lips. Beatrice looked faint in the gallery. Anya met Julian's gaze. The arrogant titan of industry now looked at her with pure fear. She slowly twisted the simple engagement ring from her finger and placed it on the table. The part of her that was his wife was gone. Anya Petrova, co-founder, had just taken her seat at the table. The recess Judge Morales called was pandemonium contained within 4 walls. The moment the judge left the bench, Julian lunged toward Anya, his face a mask of primal fury. You scheming? He began, but Marcus Thorne and a court officer physically restrained him. Anya didn't flinch. She watched him, a calm observer, to his meltdown. The man who had held absolute power over her was now a sputtering, impotent volcano. Beatrice hurried over, her face ashen. What have you done? She whispered. You will destroy this family. Julian destroyed our family. Beatrice, Anya replied, her voice even and cold. I am simply protecting my company. The negotiations that followed were a swift and total surrender. In a sterile mediation firm conference room, Team Croft, now bloated with bewildered corporate lawyers, was in disarray. Team Petrova, Anya, and Evelyn Reed held all the cards. They didn't just want a payout, they wanted control. The demands were simple and non-negotiable. First, a public statement from Julian acknowledging Anya Petrova as a co-founder of Ethelgard AI. After a weak protest about PR, he agreed through gritted teeth. Second, a permanent seat on the board of directors with voting rights, her 50% ownership stake demanded. She knows nothing about running a tech company, Julian protested weakly. I know its heart, Julian, Anya said, silencing him. I know that its greatest asset isn't code, but its people. A lesson you never learned. The demand was met. The final piece was the financial settlement, a division of the $50 billion empire she co-owned. She took the Palisades mansion, her house now, but the majority of her share remained as equity. She wasn't cashing out. She was staying in. The final divorce decree was signed with a quiet sense of finality. As Anya signed her new confident signature, the last chains of her old life fell away. 6 months later, Anya stood on the same marble balcony where her life had ended. The Pacific was a brilliant blue. In her arms was her daughter Amelia, beautiful and perfect. Her phone buzzed a video call for the quarterly board meeting of Ethelgard AI. She tapped accept, and a grid of faces appeared, including Julian's. He looked tired, diminished. He was still CEO, but no longer king. He answered to her now. Good morning, Anya said, her voice clear and authoritative as Amelia gurgled softly. Before the financials, I want to discuss the new proposal for company-sponsored childcare and expanded parental leave. Investing in our employees' families is a direct investment in our company's future. She saw Julian flinch, but the other board members nodded. Her proposals were smart and forward-thinking. She was a visionary. As the meeting progressed, Anya gently rocked her daughter, her gaze drifting to the horizon. Julian had been obsessed with a legacy passed down like a crown. He failed to see it was something you built every day. She looked down at Amelia's tiny face. This was her legacy. Not a name on a building, but a future for her daughter, a world where she would know her own worth from birth and know she could build her own kingdom. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle, and for the first time in a very long time, Anya Petrova felt profoundly free. Anya's story isn't just about a dramatic divorce. It's a powerful testament to finding your own worth when the world tries to strip it away. It's about the strength that lies dormant within us, waiting for the right moment to ignite. She was dismissed, humiliated, and cast aside, but she held on to the one thing her billionaire husband had forgotten: the proof of her own contribution. She didn't just win a settlement. She reclaimed her power, her identity, and her future, building a new legacy for her daughter. If her incredible journey from a broken wife to a boardroom powerhouse moved you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more unforgettable stories of justice and empowerment. What did you think of Julian's shocking decision? Let us know in the comments below.